The Unused Subs have kicked off with the wind at their backs here at Tyler Street Sport. From first sip to final cheers, the official home of Auckland FC. The bench is stacked with goalkeeper extraordinaire Jacob Spoonley, huge attacking threat Paul Ifill, myself, Goran Paladin, and ahead of game 500 for the Wellington Phoenix. Original Knicks marksman from game number 1, superstar striker Shane Smeltz joins the show a little bit later on. Okay boys, let's just get straight into it before we bring in Shane Smeltz. His name is Michael Woud, and some Auckland FC fans are saying Michael out. How did that happen against the Mariners, Spoon? One goalkeeper on another.
Well, they need to calm down a little bit.
Well, yeah, just chill out a bit.
I mean, there's a little bit of context, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. But look, it's just one of those unfortunate things. Ed Sheeran stage didn't help, did it?
So we're blaming Ed Sheeran,
no, we're not.
Go back to the UK.
He's a lovely little ginger. He's a lovely little ginger. So, but I think Woudi, just looking at it from a mechanical perspective, he actually almost does everything right. I think he just does it a little bit too quick. And he gets down low, the ball kicks up a bit, he adjusts up, and then instead of going to meet the ball, which is what you want to do in that situation, he ends up just rocking backwards. And from there, it unravels fairly quickly. But I just felt sorry for the guy. His stomach dropped when I saw it, and he didn't deserve that. And I've actually had a look through. I'm like, I can't remember him having much to do recently. And I think this is actually a really important thing, because what he has had to do, he's done really well. So if you look back at the last couple of games, Newcastle, 5 shots, 3 goals. MacArthur, 6 shots, 1 goal. Brisbane's the anomaly in all this. 13 shots, no goals. Melbourne City, 6 shots, 2 goals, and the Mariners, 6 shots, only 2 on target, 2 goals. So he's actually been very, very tidy, and they're not that far off where they were last year, where we were raving about Alex Paulson. But yeah, end of the day, it's one of those things. It's a mistake. It happened late on, but I don't think it's the cause for all of the argument around the drop points.
You've heard what Spoons had to say, Ify, and you've heard the stat attack as well. The fans that are calling for Michael out. Is it time for Oli Sail or not?
Yeah, I think it's very harsh. I think Val's done well, and he's in a team that's pretty dominant, so he has to keep that really high level of concentration as a save here, save there. But I think he slightly comes undone because you've got a guy who, in most people's opinion, is just as good, maybe better. So I think that's what gets him, rather than if he was at the club with somebody who was a clear number 2, I don't think you'd make the change. But I think because you've got 2 guys that could be a number 1, I think that Corica will make the change. So I think it's just unfortunate, the circumstances. I think he's been good enough up to now. But I think you make the change because you've got a guy there who's as good. So and he's been waiting for his chance too. So we're halfway through the season. Maybe Oli Sail comes in for a few games. I mean, if that's the threshold, then you would hope that if Woud is out, then he gets the same treatment. So Sail comes in 3 or 4 games. If he makes a mistake or 2, then they swap it back. I think Corica's in a good position that he's got 2 very, very good goalkeepers for the level.
We've spoken about them wobbling at the top of the table, and what a wonderful place to wobble. But in the post-match press conference, Steve Corica mentioned the fact that, look, they should be in a better position. They've picked up 5 points from the last 5 games. And we're focused on Michael Woud's error or blunder, whatever you want to call it, because it is so bleeding obvious. But maybe we're actually looking in the wrong penalty area, because up the other end of the field, yes, they have had players who have scored goals, but they are creating so many chances, Ify, and not burying them. Corica himself said he wants to see them become more ruthless. If they were more ruthless at the weekend against Mariners, then a Michael Woud blunder isn't as costly, is it?
Look, it gets to that stage. If I was the goalkeeper, I'd be thinking the same thing. I'd be thinking, well, if you do your job the other end, I'm allowed to throw one in every now and again. Now, that's not quite computing at the moment, so that's why we find ourselves where we are. But the silver lining from the weekend for me was the fact that they're still creating a lot of chances, and I think he has worked out what his best front four is. That for me looks excellent. Like they could not get a handle on where Lachie Brook was going to pop up. They couldn't get hold of Guillermo Mai. He was picking up amazing positions. The timing of one of them dropping in and one of them going beyond, it was causing all sorts. And you've got all of that with the focal point of Sam Cosgrove down the middle. I think it was great, and I just think it's one of those games where if you turn it around and play 90 minutes again, they win 6-1, and we're waxing lyrical about how everything went really well. We're not talking about Michael Woud. So they were that close to making that right if one of those chances goes in the net. So I think if they keep creating that amount of chances between now and the end of the season, they win the league. They win the whole thing.
To Ify's point, and just kind of putting the goalkeeper hat back on again, having been in the situation that Michael's been in, you're not pointing the finger, but you're like, oh, do us a favour. Like, we could have been 3 or 4-0 up easy after 30 minutes. So yet again, we're talking about Auckland perhaps not taking the opportunities, and just talking about those opportunities. This time last year, they were creating 1.5 big chances, whatever that means, per game.
Are we getting into XG areas?
No, we're not going to touch that. But this year, and I think everyone can see this, they're creating more chances, and apparently, according to these big chance stats, they're at 2.5. So the conversion. And the point around that is it becomes more comfortable, and it changes the dynamic of the game. So that's where I think everyone wants to get to with Auckland.
Look, what I'll say with my playing and coaching hat on, it's much easier to train the finishing, the final part, than the decision making and the chance creation. So, as a coach, if I'm just there and I'm going, right, we just got to get the technical part right. You know, the timing of movement and all that stuff is really difficult. But if we're saying, right, we're creating enough of those bits, let's work on putting the ball in the back of the net. Yes, that can be difficult, but it's a lot easier than the other stuff, because, you know, trying to break down a defence and all those bits and pieces, the tactical stuff, that's hard work week in, week out. The finishing bit you can do, and if you look at it, they're all guys that have put the ball in the net time and time again over the last few seasons. So it's going to, I think you get 2 of them hitting their straps out of those 4 in the next couple of weeks, and that'll be enough.
Well, speaking of putting the ball in the back of the net, that's exactly what Newcastle Jets did against the Wellington Phoenix, running out 4-1 winners. But after 21 seconds, the Phoenix found themselves behind, courtesy of a Lachie Bayliss rocket from long range. I didn't think that we would see the 28-second Sam Cosgrove derby goal eclipse this season, but we have by the grand total of 7 seconds. People would have been like, oh yeah, game's starting, I'm heading off to the fridge, get myself a beer, sit your ass back down on the couch, and you're 1-0 down. What the hell happened, Spoon?
It's a hell of a strike.
Wonderful goal.
And I think this speaks to the game in general. Newcastle at this moment are soaring. They are ascending not only in terms of the way they play football, but the way that they are climbing the ladder. I just think they were that good today. So I wouldn't be too downhearted if I was the Phoenix. I'd be disappointed and frustrated, yes. But there was elements to like in the way in which the Phoenix played the game, and how, if you're talking about missed chances, Ify, how they didn't score more goals in that first half in particular. That's the head scratcher.
James Delianov.
Unbelievable. Delianov was amazing. Just going back to it, you're talking about the goal being so early. I missed it live. I was actually in the kitchen getting a drink, and I was like, "What?"
He's the guy I'm talking about.
Couldn't believe it, but it was an absolute banger. You're right, but I mean, if the Phoenix had gone in at half time in front, I don't think many people would have argued. I thought they had a good first half. I thought they created a number of chances. It was, you know, here and there, end to end stuff. It was a good game. Ultimately, Newcastle too strong in the second half, but I just think, again, the chances are probably not falling to the people that Chiefy would want to fall to. I mean, at the moment, you want them falling to the guys that have done it week in, week out. Corbin Piper is a work in progress, so I think we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. If you look at the chance that he had in that first half, it was actually converted by Newcastle, near enough carbon copy in the second half. Now, that's a guy who's probably found himself in that position for Newcastle time and time again. Corbin Piper is finding himself in different positions than he's probably used to. So if they're going to stick with him, which it looks like they have to because there's not too many alternatives, these things are going to happen. Like, you know, I'm a former striker who was coming across. I remember thinking if he hits this near post high, he scores 9 times out of 10. He's tried to do what they say is the right thing, go back across from where the ball's coming from. But I think the near post high one beats him. But again, it's always easy to say, I was the guy going to get a drink from the fridge and saying it's easy from the couch. So don't want to give him too much stick at all.
I actually think Corbin Piper sits in amongst what will be their kind of planned 11. If they stick with this 4-4-2, then I think you've got 2 willing runners, get pressure on the ball, and also a bit of a battering ram, something a bit different for the Phoenix, and then they've got the technical players to play off that. So, yeah, I like what I see from the Phoenix, and they're coming up against a wounded beast in Melbourne City this weekend for that 500th game.
Which we'll talk more about with Shane Smeltz shortly. Before we get Smeltzy on, though, the first week of the OFC Pro League, I'm wearing my polo proudly. Yeah, free polo, actually, nice. A couple of them. Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me, and I noticed this very early on, I think it was the Eden Park couple of games, I was having a chat before going live on air with Stefano Vrey, who's the head coach of Buller FC. And he shouts out to the Vanuatu United head coach, Lars Hopp, "Hey, Lars, can you just tell the boys to go through their warm-down routine for me?" So he's telling the opposition coach to sort out his players for him. And I thought to myself, is there another professional football competition on the face of the planet where the coaches could ask that of the opposition? You know, like, it's not going to happen in the Premier League with Arne Slot saying, "Hey, Pep, can you just tell Virgil to take everybody for the warm down?" Never going to happen. So I really enjoyed the mateship aspect, and I think that's born of the fact that this is a brand new competition and they're all in it together.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching the OFC. I think there's a lot of stories that we're already aware of in the Auckland FC ranks and the South Island United ranks, but seeing the teams from the Pacific Islands in New Zealand, seeing them playing, the wonderful goals, having South Melbourne in there as well for a little bit of NPL flavour.
Yep.
My one complaint, having watched the rounds, is that
Having me on commentary?
no.
Come on, mate. Spit it out.
No.
Spit it out.
Well, actually, I think this is where you could have done a really good job in the build-up.
So I didn't do a good job, wifey.
Is that having the
That's what
stories?
he's saying.
Yeah. I'm reading between the lines, I think.
I feel you've coached in the islands. There are some wonderful stories that can be told about the teams and the players, and I think we could have been told about those going into the games to then see that player on the field or to understand the context in which this team has been built off the field.
I look at Tahiti, for instance, their captain. If you go on Wikipedia and look at his record, I think it's for Venus, he scored 350 goals in 250 games. So people should know about that. He's someone to be looking out for. I mean, he's 33 now. He probably never thought he was going to kick a ball as a professional footballer. What a crazy story that is. He's done unbelievably for his local club side, and all of a sudden he finds himself captaining the first professional team from his country. So I think they can do a better job there, but I don't want to hammer them too much. It's so new, It's fresh. I was doing the game for Sky on the weekend, and I bumped into the referees who'd been involved, and they really enjoyed themselves and said it's been breath of fresh air, new people to work with. The island nations are making it's such a big thing to them. They're so pleased to be involved, which is great. So long may it continue. I don't think the standard's where it needs to be, but I think it will only get better. I'm watching the games, and I don't think it's of a National League level yet. In saying that, I think the team that Auckland FC have got together probably goes close to winning the National League, but I think once you've got a South Melbourne, I think there's a drop-off after that. It'll be interesting to see how South Island go over the next few weeks, and who's going to emerge out of the Pacific Island nations to be that team that maybe bridges the gap. So look, it's fun, and what I really love is having a game of football in the middle of the day. Like, most people are at work, don't get me wrong, but for people like myself who do next to bugger all, it's quite nice to be able to tune into a game in the afternoon and see what's going on.
Wellington Phoenix Women, 9th to 2nd.
Yeah, and we've spoken about how tight it is in the men's A-League competition.
What a jump.
It's even tighter. Well, I mean, the reason they're able to make that jump at the weekend is because between 2nd and 9th, it's a 2-point spread. A 2-point spread. But yeah, I mean, over the last 6 games, Ife, and you might be able to speak to this a little bit better than me, I think over the last 6 games, they've only lost once, and that one loss came to Melbourne City.
Who?
So if you reverse that result, then you're actually looking at the Wellington Phoenix Women being top of the pile, 1 point ahead of Melbourne City. That's how good their run is at the moment, Ife.
I think they've been class, and I think Bev was speaking about it weeks and weeks back, and saying it looks like somebody's going to take a hiding off us at some point, and then they duly did the next week. And I think that you see the confidence just rise from there. But I think where we're talking about Auckland not being ruthless, I think the Phoenix are being ruthless. I watched the game yesterday with my daughters. Brooke Nunn, the couple of the finishes from Brooke Nunn were class. Yeah. Like she's cool, calm, and collected. So they're looking great. A big shout out to Pia Vlock. I think she's just turned 17.
Yes, Ife.
An unbelievable signing. I've got a tweet, and I'm going to save it because I put it out when they signed her, and I'm going to say I told you so to everybody at the end of the season, because she is top drawer, and I said she'd make an impact immediately. And she certainly has done. So that's me blowing my own trumpet. But she's doing all the work. She's been absolutely class.
Someone's got to, mate. Yeah. Someone's got to.
Take
you know that we won't.
No, she's been brilliant. So it's funny because you see all these big names coming in from here, there, and everywhere, and it's actually the one that was on your doorstep playing local football that's actually making an unbelievable impact. She's been class, so look out for her in the Ferns in the future for sure.
Yeah. Well, she's as good as I was in the commentary box of the OFC Pro League.
I do like just coming back to the
I
football.
saw that raised eyebrow, you bastard.
Going back to the
I've got
football.
I've got a tweet about you somewhere as well.
Oh, fucking hell. All right, good. Yeah, just hang on to that one for a few years, would you?
I do love how the Phoenix women, they're playing attacking football and it feels like they can score and there's intensity to the games. And I feel you're right. Watching it on, it's a long weekend up here, Sunday I think it was. It was a good watch, mate. And down to Bev Priestman, how she's adapted through the injuries to big players. Also how she's bringing on the likes of Pia Vlock, Mania Elliott as well, was someone that's brought up 50 caps for the Wellington Phoenix on the weekend. So there's momentum around this team now, which is great to see. 500 games for the Wellington Phoenix this Friday against Melbourne City. We're going to rewind all the way back to game number 1. And along with Paul Ifill, we've got some Phoenix royalty. 53 games across his 2 stints, 24 odd goals, a goal every second game. A little bit of cheek to boot as well. Shane Smeltz. Smeltzy, mate, talk us through that first game and leading into what was a 2-2 draw against Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, well, obviously, look, it was at the time it was start-up club, wasn't it? So it was exciting times. And I just remember, as everybody knows, the A-League pre-season's super long, but we had a lot to get through in terms of getting a club up and running. So from a player's perspective, it was super exciting. New club, new team, and going in playing Victory round 1, which was at the time they were certainly one of the big boys in the league. So yeah, I think from memory, what were we 2-0 down at some point in the game, and we managed to come back and score. I think Daniel scored a nice goal to get us back in it, and then I managed to pop up and get an equaliser, which I think for the looking back, the context of the day and where the club was at was sort of vitally important that we got something for the fans and something for the club in round 1.
Smeltzy, in recent weeks on the Unused Subs, I've become something of the goal police, and your equalising goal, I don't think it should actually go down as something scored by you, because you were probably looking to square it across the 6-yard box, and it bounces off a Victory defender's
Matthew
head.
Kemp, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was
So
noticeable because it was quite
How do you
bald.
feel about your first goal as a Wellington Phoenix player?
Well, I think that comment's probably coming from someone who's maybe not scored so many goals. But,
Ding!
Look, as I feel, no, it's when a ball comes across there, you're sort of just hitting good areas, and sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But there certainly was a deflection, and look, it deceived the goalkeeper. I'll be honest, I was not heading that back across. I was going far post, and it ended up sort of going middle of the goal, I think. But sometimes you get lucky, don't you?
My response to you would have been 2 words long, so Smeltzy's been a lot more diplomatic. But Smeltzy, on the day, I think it was 2-0 down. Daniel misses a penalty just before half-time, so we go into the sheds with that deficit to try and claw back. But I remember it got to around about the 65-minute mark, and I don't know if this was something that happened on the field or was by design, but I distinctly remember Kleberson, the Brazilian centre-back, just decided, he was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go on overlapping runs. And he just started pelting forward, and we came home with such a wet sail that Royce Brownlee hits the post at 2-2, and you had this amazing chance as well. So was it like the team was caught up in the emotion of the moment and almost getting that debut win?
Spoons, this is unbelievable detail from you. I can't remember it like that, mate. All I can remember is we played, we drew 2-2, and that was it. Obviously, you had you had the box seat on the bench there.
It was a big moment for me, Smeltzy.
You're bringing up some names there, Kleberston and the likes. We had a couple of Brazilian boys that were probably signed off DVDs or CDs back in the day, and the recruitment was done a little bit different, but they were good. They were good value. We had a couple of different characters, but as you know, like putting a team together, I've been involved in 3 startup clubs, and sort of when you're putting teams together, that's probably the key element But we had some characters in that group, for first year. But yeah, there was dramas in that game. Certainly, there was dramas in that game. But I think luckily we sort of finished with a wet sail and we come home strong.
What was your impression, sort of first week or two? Because I've gone into clubs and you get an idea of who you're playing with, who the good boys are, who's going to look after you want to go into battle with. But what did you think, sort of a week or two in? Who are the guys that are going to be good A-League players? Who are the guys you want to go to battle with? What were your first impressions?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, to be honest, I came in a little bit late in the scene. I was actually, I think I was the last player signed for the Phoenix on the roster at the time. So we had, probably don't remember, we had an international game. So away with the All Whites, Ricky Herbert in Wales, and we drew 2-2 with Wales. And I think off the back of that, I managed to get a gig at Phoenix because I was in for the couple of years before that. I was um, sort of floating about a little bit, if you like, in the UK, and you know how you can be at the lower end, the sort of the tiers below. In the UK, you can sort of go missing a little bit, right? Although I did well at certain clubs and scored some goals, but it's a hard graft. So I managed to get as I say, last sort of roster spot at the Phoenix, if you like. I came in late a little bit in pre-season, but I was fit off the back of the international stuff, and I was kind of head down and focused on me. But yeah, you sort of straight away we had a few leaders in the team. We had obviously a core group of the All Whites, guys that had sort of come back a little bit, and so it was really comfortable for me. I mean, I'd never lived in Wellington, but it was comfortable for me being around. It felt like almost like an All Whites setup in some ways. Obviously Ricky Herbert was the coach, so everything seemed comfortable. So it was a easy transition, but we had a blend of sort of good senior players, All Whites that were in sort of their prime years, and then we had a sprinkling of foreigners that we didn't really know of, and some of them did okay, some of them sort of found it difficult. But yeah, it was good times.
Were you off contract with Halifax Town before that point, mate?
Yeah, so I was basically I was kind of free. It's Australia, I was free at that time. I had decided to come back to Australia anyway. Obviously, grew up in Australia. Come back. I hadn't played in the A League. I think the A League had been going for 2 years by now, if I'm correct. And then yeah, I came back. And the funny thing is, I mean, even though I grew up in Australia, I was a foreigner for any A League team. So I did the rounds. I knocked on doors in some ways, made a lot of phone calls. At the time, no one would sort of take me on because foreigners, everyone was looking at the Brazilians or whatever it might be at the time, whatever was the flavour of the day, and a Kiwi lad wasn't really, especially as a nine, wasn't really in their sights at the time. So yeah, I guess at that time was difficult, but managed to get an opportunity there at the Phoenix, and sort of the rest was history. But I think in that first season, I think I was third in the Johnny Warren sort of tally, if you like, whatever it was, and then the second season I won it. So a few of those clubs that sort of turned me down on those phone calls were then sort of tapping me up. So it changes quickly in football, as you know.
One of the great side stories, Smeltzy, of the Wellington Phoenix being created was the guy behind it. Terry Serepisos, legendary suits, wonderful shoes, sharp haircuts.
Great TV.
Yeah, wonderful TV show. What was it like having this guy in and around the club, and what were some of the interesting things that he got up to with you lads?
Terry was great because he was passionate. He loved the Phoenix. In his mind, he sort of designed and built the club, which he technically did. And he loved it. He loved the boys. He wanted them all to have a good time. He probably needed to get that balance right of having a good time and understanding professional football. But he meant well with everything, right? And yeah, there were certainly some good times. I mean, he knew how to put on a party. He knew how to enjoy himself. But there's probably one time I actually remember. I don't know if this is the moment that everyone sort of spoke about where he brought his Ferrari onto the training pitch. But we had a bit of a light session one day. He came with Tony Pinata, and them two sort of joined in. I don't know how we got playing. It was like a bit of a light-hearted at the end of session, six-a-side match, if you like. The boys were like, "What's going on here? We can't go and tackle the owner. What's happening?" And I remember there was someone played him a ball, and I'm thinking, you're not gonna chase that ball. And anyway, he's gone full steam after it. He's got there to whip it in. He's got there. I think it's gone row Z, and then he's actually done his knee at the same time. So he literally he hobbled off, got in his Ferrari and left. So that was the last we saw of him with boots on. I reckon if he had his typical shoes on, I reckon he would have actually got there and whipped it in. But it was the boots.
Hey, they're so long, he'd have got there in plenty of time, wouldn't he? That might have saved him.
Mate, that toe on them shoes was bended like Terry, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. Did you ever see them spoons? Have you seen the ones we're talking about?
I think I got hit by them a couple of times in a bar, mate. You could feel them coming into the back of the calves when he was like lining up for a drink.
Well, he was about a size 10, but the shoes were about a size 16 because the point beyond the toe,
at least,
it was ridiculous. And I'm thinking, how do you even walk in them? But mate, every night out, pair of ripped jeans and these bastard shoes.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
I can still remember Cirque du Soleil coming in and performing at the Beckham after party. And me and Christian Cullen were standing watching it because it didn't even get an introduction. It just started happening in the background and the music's still going. And Cully's like, what is going on here? I'm like, mate, I've got no idea, because they were still drinking with us beforehand and then they just went and started performing. So it was bizarre, mate.
Drunken gymnasts.
Basically.
Sounds a bit dangerous.
I know. But Ify, mate, you must have a young, because I've heard about the one where he comes onto the field in the Ferrari again. Doesn't get out, apparently, Smeltzy, because he wants to look after his knees. But then he's going to give like a big speech or something before a game against Sydney, and it goes in a very different direction.
Yeah, no, that was the one we'd beaten Newcastle in the, I think it was whatever it was then, the semi, and then you go into the major semi. We're going to be playing Sydney, so he's driven in from miles off, and you can hear the car coming over the hill, and then he just drives straight onto the ground, and we all congregate round because we're thinking he's going to be giving us a little G up big speech, and he's like, "All right, boys. Just want to let you guys know that I've sorted the after party at the Ivy, so like win, lose or draw, we're getting on it afterwards." And then he just starts the car up and just roars off, and we were like, "Oh, that was it." And we did. We lost, and we went to the Ivy, and it was pretty spectacular. So that was cool. I mean, look, I remember meeting Terry for the first time. I'd just arrived, obviously from England. And Drew had said to me, "Oh, look, the owner's a little bit expensive. You'll meet him at some point, blah, blah, blah." And then I get a phone call a couple of hours later. This is my first day. The owner's putting on something at Red Square. You've got to come out. And I'm like, Drew, I'm dead, man. I'm so jet lagged. And he said, no, you've got to be disrespectful if you don't go. So we go into Red Square, which is just around the corner from where we were living at the time in one of Terry's buildings. All the boys were in there, we're all having a drink. And then Terry arrives with a friend of his called Paula, who worked at the club as well at the time. And I Paul, nice to meet you. And I'm sat down on the sideline now. I'd like trying not to sleep. And then the music comes on. Terry's got the DJ, puts on his favourite song. Terry and Paula are just in the middle of the dance, were dancing round the handbags like a pair of old ladies. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? And he just liked to be the centre of attention. I ended up falling asleep on the sofa and got wheeled out of there at like 2:00 in the morning. But like, you just never, I think Smeltz is right. He was one of those guys. He was so eccentric. You never know what was around the corner. Like it was not normal, and it's gone. I think it's gone too far the other way. I think you need a happy medium, because certainly for me,
I agree.
I played my best stuff. I knew that if he didn't get it right, he was always trying to get it right. He was always doing what he thought was best for the players to make sure that we were comfortable and happy in the environment.
It rolls back to his passion and his love, right, for the club. And I think that's where now you see sort of the ownership model where it's more, it's 80%, 90% business rather than, he was probably more 60-40, like he was love and passion 60% and business 40%. Do you know what I mean? So I think Iv's right. You need to find that balance. The players can feel it as well from above, and I think it helps. It helps come match day. It helps. It's when things are not necessarily run properly from the top, but you've got that backing from the club and the love's there into the club. It certainly helps as a player.
And this is no disrespect to anybody before or since at the club, but as a club player, I saw Terry 2-3 times a week. Once that changed over, we never saw anybody. Like, we would very, very rarely would you see
No.
You know, I'm not just hammering Rob Morrison here. I'm talking about any of the owners at the club. Like, you'd see Terry on a weekly basis. So for me, I'd be willing to run more. And I'm not saying I did or didn't, but you know, straight away you're thinking, this guy's putting his time and effort into what he's doing here. And I always felt a closer link, I suppose, to the higher echelons of the club than I did ever after that time.
Yeah.
That's just not just. I'm not just talking about the Phoenix. I'm talking
Absolutely.
about any club I've ever been at. You know, most of the clubs I've been at in England, you'd see the gentleman once in a blue moon, and it would be at the end of season do, and he'd come and say, "Well done," or "You've been rubbish." But to have a personal relationship with guys above, I think it makes a big difference.
Well, regardless of his pointy shoes and his questionable dance moves at 2 a.m. in the morning, he's done some incredible business getting Paul Ifill and Shane Smeltz to the Wellington Phoenix in those early days. And Smeltzy, you mentioned it briefly earlier, your second season, the Johnny Warren medal win, you were Golden Boot, you won goal of the season. Talk to us about that season. Was it your best ever season as a professional footballer? And then Ify, on the back of that, if you could, the pressure that created on you coming in to essentially replace Shane Smeltz. Smeltzy, off you go.
Yeah, I think it's certainly up there. It's definitely one of my most enjoyable seasons for sure. And I think you know we touched on it before. It was only a season or two before that where I was fighting it out in the UK, probably at crossroads with my career at some point there. So then to be 2 years later, technically called one of the better players in the league and voted by your peers, I think was an amazing moment for me. It comes down to environments and enjoying, and we sort of mentioned that there with Terry and the club and everything. I think that was a big part of it. I felt like for the first time probably in my career, a true professional footballer that was backed and liked by the club from ownership down, staff, players. And I just sort of ran with that. Do you know what I mean? It's when you're enjoying your football, and I think I will be the same. You tell you, like, when you're in an environment and you're enjoying your football, regardless of money or whatever it might be, you tend to play your best football. So that was the start of probably 5-6 years where I went through a period there where no injuries, just enjoyed my football. There was a World Cup thrown in there, and that was definitely the best period of my career.
Yeah, I'll follow that up. So you want to know how it was for me? Like, coming in, I think we've talked about it on the show before, but I lied on my CV and told the club I was a 9. So I turned up at the club, and all the talk was who was going to replace the goals from Shane Smeltz. Now I didn't know Smeltzy then at all, so I'm just thinking, geez, every interview I'm doing, I'm hearing about this guy who's been the Johnny Warren medal winner, scored all these goals, and I'm thinking, and I'm bluffing that I'm a centre forward, and I've got to try and follow this guy. So that was a little bit daunting. Myself and Greeny would talk about it, and we were like, well, maybe we can get enough goals between us. It'll bridge the gap with a bit of luck. So we obviously go into the season, and it goes okay, and I end up scoring a few goals. Greeny scores a few goals, and we just about get there. But I think Smeltzy's season at Gold Coast, I think he scored the same as me and Greeny combined. So I think we actually just about managed. Did you get 19 that year, Smeltzy, was it, for Gold Coast?
Yeah, I think it was 19 that next year. Yeah, it was a good season as well.
Yeah. So
did you get offered the number 9? Oh, you didn't want to take the number 9.
I got offered it, and I was like, no, thank you. I got given. I think Rusty Gray saved me. Rusty got me the 8.
Yeah, R.I.P.
And I stayed at 8 for the rest of it.
Yeah.
So no, it was a really good time.
Don't lie, Ives. To be fair, Ives, to be fair, you've probably looked at the CV and gone, this Smeltzy, he's only played at Halifax and AFC Wimbledon. I've played 200
Smeltzy, I was about to say, if Google was more prominent then, you'd have Googled it and been like, we were in Yorkshire at the same time. Why have I never heard about this guy?
I've got this league on toast.
I did think I'd be okay. That first year was arguably my most fun season. I think I played my best stuff. And it was funny because come the end of the season, if you remember, we went to the end of season awards. And I remember Mike Cockrell coming up to speak to us afterwards. And Carlos Hernandez had actually won the Johnny Warren. You'd come second and I'd come third. And I remember thinking, I guess I was pretty happy with that. And I don't know if you remember this, Smeltzy.
Right, yeah.
As he told me this, I was sitting with my back to like this little Roman candle thing, and my jacket caught on fire. My suit jacket caught on fire at the end of the show. I don't know if you remember that bit.
At the awards?
Yeah, at the awards. So I was sat there, we were talking, Mike had come up to me, and I was sat there, and I'm pretty sure you were in close proximity, Smeltzy, so you might not have been right on the scene, but you were there, because we'd just been talking about me and you finishing second and third.
Yeah.
Also did nothing about the Flames, Ifill.
Yeah.
I think you just pointed and laughing. But then somebody said in front of me, "Oh, can you smell that? Something's on fire." So I go to turn
It's my football
around,
career.
and and it was my jacket. So I quickly kind of got it half off, and then people were patting me down, putting me out. That was my end of season story.
Smeltzy, I do want to touch on VAR here because it's quite important, and we're going to shift across now to what's coming for the All Whites over the next few months, and that is the World Cup. Now, G,
I thought I was the goal police.
G,
Are you taking over?
would you like to name the players that have scored for New Zealand at a World Cup? Because this is quite phenomenal, Smeltzy, and I think we don't celebrate these moments enough. So we're going to hand it across to the person that is actually media trained to run us through this.
Steve Sumner has scored for New Zealand.
Yes.
So too has Steve Wooden.
Yes.
So too has Winston Reid.
And
the man who joins us today, Shane Smeltz.
who
Against Italy, no less.
who were they?
The reigning world champions. They won the competition in 2006 and then turned up at South Africa 2010 and were held to a 1-1 draw by little old New Zealand.
How the hell do you even approach that fixture?
Approach the fixture? Well, yeah, look, it's a moment. Yeah, now this is the exciting bit. Like you just it stays with you. Do you know what I mean? It just stays with you. So people said at the time, like, no one can ever take that away. You realise that now every year that passes, you still sort of bring it up. In international football, you talk about, you meet Italians, they all know about it. So it's a special moment. And as you mentioned, I mean, you don't really think about it, but 4 goal scorers that have managed to score a goal for New Zealand in the history of the game is pretty elite. So it's a special moment. But going into that game, I think we were riding a high because we came down to the last sort of effort in the game prior against Slovakia. Back end of the game, we were a goal down.
We've also heard that you almost killed Winston Reid, mate, in the celebrations.
Big point there. Yeah, well, that was. I mean, that was as good as feeling of almost scoring the goal. I mean, I put the ball into Winston Reid. I'll be honest, probably the best cross of my life as well. In swinging cross, he's managed to get a flick on it, and it goes in the far post. And just the feeling of that, we're charging off to the sideline to celebrate with the fans, and we didn't realise there's a moat all the way around the ground. It was like 10 meters deep, and it had a massive net on it. It was like something you'd see in the Roman days, right? And we're charging towards the fans, and I've literally slipped, and I think someone's grabbed me before I fall down there, and we're just going berserk with the fans. But it was that was probably what gave us momentum going into the Italy game, I think, to be honest, because as you know, you come off, you're not tired, you're not sore, you're not anything, you're buzzing, you're playing, World Cup, you're playing 3 days later, and a lot of it's about momentum and recovery and all the rest of it, and we were just ready to go.
I've been in those positions, not at the World Cup, but where you feel $1 million after a game. Doesn't matter any knocks you take and blah blah blah. Like you said, that last minute equaliser, the adrenaline is crazy. But you're going into the next game against the reigning champs. How were the coaching staff? Did they set you up to say, we're going to try and hang in this game and see if we can nick something? And how were you as players? Because you're not always on the same page. I've been in positions where the coach doesn't really fancy you can do something, but the players do, or vice versa. Were you all on the same page? Like, yeah, we'll roll on this momentum and we can actually nick something off the reigning champs.
Yeah, I think so. I think going into the game with that momentum and then playing someone like Italy, like we had no expectation really from our end. But in saying that, we played them. I mean, we'd been in South Africa the year before for the Confeds Cup in 2009, and we played Italy then, and I think the game was 4-3 to them. So we scored 3 goals against them. I scored a header that day against them. I think Chris Killen scored a goal. Like, we scored 3 goals against them that day in South Africa, and we kind of like, I mean, I certainly didn't feel it. I don't think any of the boys felt like this was too big of a task. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously when you get off we got off to a flight. We knew we had to be physical against them. We had that up front. I think myself, Rory Fallon, Chris Killen, and Ifes, when you as a front three, if you can cause problems physically, they didn't like it. We're doing everything we could within the rules to sort of get physical with them, and we sort of put them off the game, especially first half. We were right in it. We scored the goal after 7 minutes. Of course, they're going to have their moments where they come back in it and they sort of dominated large periods after that. But we also had that belief. We knew we could sit in and defend for each other. And I think that bit come from that core group that have been together for years, going through, a lot of us were the same age, with a sprinkling of experienced boys with Nelly at the back and then a couple of young ones that come through with Winston Reid. So we just had an amazing group that you knew could fight for each other. And once we got 1-0 up, we were going to be tough to beat, and we managed to ride it out. I still have some sort of disappointment that we didn't go on with that tournament. If you think the whole undefeated thing, but we went into the last game and, we needed just something, and we're in the last 16 of the world. So it's, that would have been absolutely amazing, but, there's two sides to sort of look at it, you know what I mean?
Just jumping in there, because you've referred to it as the goal that we scored. Now, that's very, very humble, mate, but there's got to be someone that puts in the back of the net. And the goal was scored against Giorgio Chiellini, Fabio Cannavaro, and Gianluca Zambrotta. These are Italian defenders that fit within that mold of
taking
Italian
advantage
defenders.
of the Cannavaro mistake, no less.
Which results in this amazing photo with Shane Smeltz. I've got to say, a little bit surprised Smeltzy in the eyes. They give it away, and Cannavaro on his backside in the aftermath. But would VAR give it offside? It kind of flicks off.
Could your voice go any higher if it tried?
I don't want to say this.
Unless you can show me that the ball has actually deviated off Winston Reid's head, which I don't think, and he's never actually admitted that he actually got a flick on. I still to this day don't think he got a flick on it, right? And that's what's deceived Cannavaro, because he's thinking something's happening, and he's just seen it just fell all the way through to his knee, and then it's come off his knee, and I've reacted. No, I was on the move, right? So he's followed me. Cannavaro was marking me. We've sort of spun, and as you know, you just stay on the move in the box. So my momentum just took me to the ball, and I managed to get a lever on it and toe poke it in. But I still to this day don't think Winston Reid touched it. It'd be interesting to see, because now we'd have VAR, they'd have a good look at it, that's for sure. But I was more, my feeling, like when you say the eyes gave it away, I was like, hang on, this has just happened. And it was dead silent. Like it was actually, there was no noise. You know what I mean? So you score at a World Cup, you're thinking there was no noise. I mean, most of the fans were obviously Italian supporters. And it was weird. You just run off to the corner, and then you realise, well, no one's saying anything here. Well, this is on. So it was a surreal sort of moment, a weird feeling.
Not offside, Smeltzy.
Oh,
well, it's done.
Look,
Comprehensive discussion and
statement. The
statement.
strangest thing that Smeltzy just said is that there was silence in the stadium. And we
Those
all know
bloody-
from 2010, the Vuvuzelas were a constant menace, right? Constant wall of sound. And then for a moment against Italy, nothing.
If I'm honest, and this sounds a little bit weird, but like, all this hype of the last few years about manifesting things and that. I mean, I generally felt like that was sort of written in the scripts a little bit. And I was a young lad. I think my first World Cup I actually really soaked in was 2010, Italia 90, and I was at the backyard just pretending to be playing at the World Cup, scoring at the World Cup. And I think it was just, to be honest, I just think it was something you dream about for so long. And then once we realised we made the World Cup, I just had this feeling like it was going to happen on the world stage. So although it was a surreal moment, it wasn't like a super shock to me in the system. I think it was something that I dreamt about since I was 10.
20 years in the making. But you referred to manifesting things being written in the stars there, Smeltzy. There was another moment, and I'm curious if this was written in the stars, because I think it's a couple of days before there's a certain incident that takes place away from cameras, away from social media, and involves a couple of golf carts.
Yeah, I don't know how much this has been spoke about, to be honest, but it's a internal classic funny story. people are probably thinking, why are you on golf carts in the World Cup? But we were we were like obviously the last team, I believe, to qualify for the World Cup. So our information was told all the big nations, all the countries have booked out hotels and where are we going to stay. There was no hotels to actually stay in, which I find difficult to believe. Maybe that was New Zealand football just trying to come up with something there. But apparently there was no hotels to stay in. So we ended up staying at a golf resort, right? We're probably the only country that stayed in a golf resort, a lockdown gated golf resort with a community of houses, which was actually fantastic. Who came up with that, I don't know, but it suited us in terms of the character and nature of New Zealand players. You know, we were sort of more relaxed. There was a bit of freedom. You could get outside a little bit because, as you know, security was high in South Africa. But it was a bit of a hike. So we had every house we stayed in, there was 4 or 5 boys to a house, and we had, so we're not even in a hotel, we're in houses, you know, right? Decent houses. And you had golf carts to get to meals. And as you know, I saw if you're late for meals, there's fines and all that. So that continued, right? But now it's not just, get the lift down. It was get on a golf cart and get to the meals room. And it was about 7-8 minute ride to get there. Some were quicker than others. There was like races to get to meals room. Anyway, it was after one meal. So Winnie and Rory Fallon were in a cart, and it was me and Leo Burdos. And someone must have said, like, let's have a race back to the rooms, or back to the houses. And it's getting dark. Like, it's actually like some parts of it was pitch black, so it's a little bit risky. So we've gone bang, off we went. It was like Mario Karts on the way back to the houses, and someone's gone off track. We're like, where are they? We don't know where they are. Anyway, next minute, there's like about a minute later, Winnie and Rory pop in front of us, and Rory's hyena laugh. He's giggling all the way down to the house. You know what I mean? So he's in front of us, and we've gone through this tunnel, and all of a sudden it's pitch black, and we're like, this is actually quite risky. I remember thinking at the time, but it was a race, so you're not going to stop. He's all we see in front of us, right? Because we were behind. We were actually, I think our cart must have been a bit faster, so we're like half bumping them. They've gone over this hill in the dark, right? And I don't know, they must have been airborne for, it seemed like, it was like slow motion. They were airborne. And all I hear is like this scream from one of them going, ah! So the cart's landed. Somehow we've gone over it, but they must have gone over it sideways. The whole cart's tilted. Winston Reid was basically caught underneath it, and all I hear in the dark, pitch black, can't see anything, is, oh my God, it's on my leg, it's on my leg.
Oh, no.
Right, so we're like, what is going on? 3 of us are lifting the cart off his leg. We're thinking the worst here, like a golf cart landed on your leg. And we did a little bit of a fitness test on him, make sure he's all good. And then we're underway. We're underway, but this is 2 days, I think, before the Italy game, and you could just imagine, like, if shit went wrong there, he's out of the World Cup with broken leg, doesn't end up signing West Ham, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just one of them stories that absolute classic. But the thing, it was a pitch black, we couldn't see anything, and Winston Reid's laying under a golf cart, screaming, going, "It's on my leg! It's on my leg!" He couldn't get up, so it was like, it was funny, but it was also a little bit scary at the time.
Who goes and gets Rolly?
No, I don't think he needed it. Once we'd done the fitness test, we checked him out. He was all good.
Yeah. You're good to go, mate.
And that's the reason why he didn't get the touch.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah. His vertical leap had been compromised by the golf cart.
Well played,
That's right.
Smeltzy. Manifesting. Yeah. Love that.
No, I think that was just, it sort of summed up our sort of character within the group. We were having fun constantly. You're away for 5-6 weeks for the World Cup. You're away 3 weeks before the World Cup. We're on travel playing games, Serbia, Austria. It's a long time, and I think that the fact that we were in that environment and we had such a strong connection of boys together, I think that's, I know the Phoenix, set up, and that's probably what carried the Phoenix through to some levels is environments, right? boys bonding, whether it's going out or hanging out together or whatever it is. And I think we certainly had that at the All Whites. And I think from what I hear, the current crop's got a really good group and togetherness, and that's they're going to need it, because you're going to play some strong nations, and if you want to get through the group, that's what you need. So those moments, although you don't want any injuries and things like that, those moments sort of bond you together a little bit stronger.
Thanks so much for joining us, Smeltzy. Really appreciate your time, and not only yourself, but obviously Ifi, and even you, Jacob Spoonley, who sat on the bench for the Wellington Phoenix. Without you guys, pioneers and professional footballers in this country that have taken the Phoenix to where they are, we wouldn't be celebrating game number 500 this weekend against Melbourne City. So thank you to you three and everybody else who's represented the black and yellow of the Wellington Phoenix with aplomb over the years.
Ifi and Smeltzy doing it, me watching, absolutely.
Thanks for having us, fellas. Much appreciated.